Home of Hollywood, Silicon Valley, and year-round sunshine for decades, California has been the ultimate dream destination, the kind of place where you can hit the beach in the morning, ski in the afternoon, and still make it home for the rooftop drinks in the evening. Here's the thing, thousands of Californians are giving up oceanfront sunsets for our frozen lakes, and they're not just heading to the usual spots like Texas or California, they're choosing Minnesota. Yes, Minnesota. Now I know what you were thinking, why would anyone trade the flip-flops for the parkas and the palm trees for the pines? The answer just might surprise you. And it's not just about escaping sky-high home prices or dodging state taxes either, it's about something much bigger, something that many people don't even realize until they get here. Hey there, I'm Carmack, real estate agent who's helped dozens of people relocate to the Twin Cities, and California is the #1 state that I get calls from. So today I'm going to break down exactly why Minnesota has become a bit of an unexpected paradise for former West Coasters, and trust me, stick around for reason number 2 because it's probably one factor that could completely change how you think about your next move. First, let's talk about the economic factors. I want you to picture yourself, instead of pouring half of your paycheck into some tiny little apartment in California, you're waking up to a spacious single-family home with a large backyard and maybe even a view of a lake. You're no longer stressing about sky-high rents or mortgage payments or whether or not you can afford a night out. Instead, you're actually enjoying life and building real wealth for your family. I know, it sounds like just a dream, but that's the reality of living in Minnesota. So let's talk about the numbers because the difference is staggering. While California's cost of living sits at a crushing 38% above the national average, Minnesota actually comes in 6% below it. What does that really mean for your everyday life? The biggest game changer is going to be housing. In California, their median home price has skyrocketed to a mind-boggling $860,000, whereas here in Minnesota, it's only $380,000, so less than half the price. That money barely gets you a small condo in LA versus buying a spacious 2,500 square foot home on, say, a third of an acre. So for so many Californians, homeownership has really started to feel like an impossible dream, but here it's not only impossible, it's practical. You could own your own home without sacrificing the lifestyle that you're hoping for, which is something that's getting harder and harder to do in California. And it's not just about housing, every aspect of daily life is more affordable here. Utility costs, for example, are 25% less than what you're paying now. Transportation is 31% cheaper. Even groceries, which hit Californians with a 15% markup above the national average, are nearly on par with the rest of the country in Minnesota. And here's what that really means. Well, you need about $69,200 annually to live comfortably as a single person in California. You can maintain the same quality of life in Minnesota for around $50,000 to $55,000. That's nearly a $20,000 a year savings, money that could go towards travel, investments, or just enjoying life without the financial stress. But what about jobs? Isn't California the land of opportunity? Well, actually not anymore. With unemployment at 5.5%, California's job market has become more competitive than ever, especially with tech layoffs and other businesses that are leaving the state. Minnesota, on the other hand, is thriving. Our unemployment rate here is just 3.3%, and we're home to 17 Fortune 500 companies with big players like Target, Best Buy, 3M, and United Health Group. Unlike California's shrinking job market, Minnesotan employers are hiring. Job numbers from last August, for example, showed 14,000 new jobs were added here, which is a growth rate of 0.5%, which is far outpacing the national average. And it's not just one industry that's carrying the state either. Minnesota's economy is diverse and it's growing. Healthcare, for example, is booming with over 20,000 new jobs projected for 2025. And our tech industry in Minneapolis has experienced a 12% surge with over 15,000 new jobs expected last year. Construction, transportation, and management sectors are also seeing steady expansion. But here's where Minnesota really stands out. Salaries stretch further. The state ranks 13th highest average income nationally, and when you combine that with our lower cost of living, your paycheck simply goes further. The average private sector worker here earns $37 per hour, and wages have been going up very steadily at a 5.2% increase annually, which is outpacing inflation. A tech professional working in Minneapolis earns an average of $97,830 per year, but instead of burning through their salary just to cover rent and daily expenses, they're actually able to get ahead and enjoy life. Second, why don't we talk about the quality of life? Here's what really blows Californians' minds when they come to visit Minnesota, and no, it's not seeing snow for the first time. While California might have endless sunshine, and don't worry, we will talk about the weather here shortly, if you have a family and you're considering moving to Minnesota, the #1 factor that's no doubt at the top of your list is going to be education. But let's be honest, while California has some fantastic schools, it's also facing serious challenges. Overcrowded classrooms, underfunded districts, and an education system that just struggles to keep up with the needs of their students. Meanwhile, Minnesota's quietly been making big moves to ensure that families who come here don't just get a better cost of living, but they also get a better education for their kids. Now, for my numbers people, let me break it down. Minnesota invests nearly $15,730 per student, which is a clear sign that we take education seriously. In 2024, the state legislature actually approved a historic $23 billion education budget, which is one of the largest in our state's history, ensuring that schools have the resources they need to provide a high-quality learning experience. And this investment shows up in real tangible ways, like smaller class sizes, better equipped schools, and enhanced learning programs that have helped students thrive. This is something Haley and I have experienced personally with our 4 boys, and I won't go naming names, but we have had a couple that have been struggling either academically or behavior-wise, and they were able to get additional help to work through things in a really constructive way instead of just being stuck down at the principal's office. We've also got a student who's super smart, and they've gotten him into additional AP classes and with special opportunities for advanced learning to keep him challenged and reaching his potential as well. And I should mention that we aren't even in one of the really top-rated, super expensive school districts either. Education really is a huge priority in Minnesota. Many of our schools also have specific specialties which you can look into depending on what your child might be interested in. Eden Prairie High School, for example, has an entrepreneurship focus. Coon Rapids High focuses on biomedical sciences and engineering. Champlain Park High has an international baccalaureate program with an emphasis on future business leaders. Blaine has an emphasis on engineering, math, and sciences, and Forest Lake has several Spanish immersion programs. Lakeville North has an emphasis on STEM programs, specifically around manufacturing and biomedical sciences, and that's just to name a few. So whether you're thinking about grade school, high school, or college, Minnesota isn't just a place where your family can live more comfortably, it's a place where your kids can build a future. And if there's one thing Californians love, it is the outdoors, but let's be honest, actually enjoying nature in California comes with its own set of challenges. You want to go for a hike, you better wake up at sunrise just to find a parking spot, and if you're joining me today at the beach, you're gonna have to fight crowds and potentially book a reservation in advance. But here in Minnesota, we do things a little differently. Our state is built around accessible, unspoiled nature, and not just for a lucky few, but for everybody. With 75 state parks covering 235,000 acres of pristine land, you're seriously never far from an outdoor escape. In fact, in the city of Minneapolis, no resident is ever more than 6 blocks from a park. And when we say the land of 10,000 lakes, we really mean it, because it's actually closer to 11,842 lakes, and those are only the named ones, and those come with more than 3,000 public water access points. That means that whether you want to go boating, fishing, or just take in the scenery, you can actually get out by the water and not fight for space. Let's take hiking, for example, which is one of my boys and I's favorite things about living in Minnesota. From anywhere you might live around the Twin Cities, you're going to be no more than about a 15 to 20 minute drive from a lake, trail, or park. And for those looking for an amazing weekend trip, we have countless destinations in northern Minnesota. One of my favorite areas is called the Boundary Waters Canoe Area, and while it may not have mountains, it's actually a bigger space of land than Yosemite National Park. But the best part about the Boundary Waters for me is that motors aren't even allowed on boats almost anywhere within the Boundary Waters system, so it's incredibly quiet. It's a remote place where you can canoe, you can portage, get into the backcountry, and get off the grid. And don't forget, our state also borders Lake Superior, which has the 310-mile Superior Hiking Trail, and is another great destination for a weekend trip, and you'll find a ton of scenic spots all along the drive from Duluth to the Canadian border, including Split Rock Lighthouse, Danger Castle Brewing, several state parks for camping, and so many other cool things to do. And one pro tip is going to be make sure to check out the Duluth Train Museum, which our kids have absolutely loved growing up. The biggest difference I've heard though from my California relocation clients is drive times. We simply don't have traffic anything like what I've heard of from the West Coast, so any of these great outdoor destinations are going to also be much easier to get to. Less time in the car means more time out enjoying your weekends and soaking up everything that our state has to offer. Now let's talk about one thing that throws Californians off, and that's going to be our weather, of course. Unlike California's relatively unchanging climate, Minnesota is going to give you 4 distinct seasons, each bringing something new and exciting to experience. Spring is a true transformation. After winter, the landscape bursts into vibrant greens, which is the #1 compliment that I hear from my relo clients. They can't believe just how much green is everywhere, even within the cities. Whether you're staying locally or wanting to head up north to someplace like the Boundary Waters, spring is my favorite time to get outside, take the canoe up north. The waters are higher, air is crisp, and the mosquitoes aren't bad at all. Farmers markets also pop up across the state starting in June, offering fresh local produce. And summers here are absolutely magical. While Californians are dealing with drought and water restrictions, we're out swimming, boating, fishing, and enjoying the countless lakes. Lake Superior Hiking Trail offers breathtaking views of Lake Superior, and our world-class biking trails are going to let you explore the state's beauty at your own pace. Summers around the Twin Cities are filled with community events as well, between local outdoor summer concert series at a local park to the big fireworks display for the 4th of July. Summers here are quite warm, but being able to jump in a lake or visit a community pool or splash pad and cool off really takes care of that. Fall in Minnesota is something you have to experience. Many of the big fairs are going to be happening between August and September. You've got the Irish Fair, the Renaissance Fair, and of course the Minnesota State Fair, which is the 2nd largest in the country after Texas. I also love to get up north in the fall, which is when the forest starts to explode into the fiery reds, oranges, and golds, making for some of the most breathtaking drives. Locally, fall is when we enjoy stopping by a local orchard for some apple picking. We'll visit the pumpkin patches, the corn mazes, and of course, more hiking up in the fall colors. There's just nothing quite like a crisp Minnesota fall day. And yes, I know winter is cold, and if you aren't up for it, Minnesota just might not be the place for you. My advice is to embrace it. While Californians might be missing out on some of the true seasonal variety, Minnesotans are going to be out cross-country skiing on pristine trails, we'll be ice fishing on the frozen lakes, and attending magical winter festivals like the St. Paul Winter Carnival. We get to build snowmen and igloos with our kids in the backyard, have snowball fights, and occasionally even a white Christmas. And when you need a break from the cold, we've got a lot of indoor options, from large indoor playgrounds like Maple Maze at Maple Groves Community Center to the Mall of America, which is a massive indoor roller coaster theme park called Nickelodeon Universe. And before I get too carried away talking about dog sledding and ice fishing, we should probably talk a little bit more about the arts and culture scene around Minneapolis. If you're worried about leaving California California's cultural scene behind, I think you're going to be pleasantly surprised by what you're going to find Minnesota has to offer. Two of our crown jewels really showcase Minnesotans' commitment to world-class arts and theater. The Guthrie Theater, with its breathtaking architecture overlooking the Mississippi River, isn't just another regional theater, it's a nationally renowned institute that attracts top talent from around the world. Even if you don't have time to stop by for a show, make sure to stop by and see the Guthrie's Endless Bridge viewing platform, which overlooks the Mississippi River and the Stone Arch Bridge, while inside multiple stages are going to be presenting everything from Shakespeare to more contemporary plays. Then there's the Walker Art Center, which is one of the nation's top contemporary art museums. It's got the iconic Sculpture Garden lawn right outside. It's home to the famous Spoon Bridge and Cherry exhibit, which has really become the symbol of Minneapolis' artistic spirit. The Walker consistently presents cutting-edge exhibits and performances that you might expect to find in New York or London, but with a distinctly Minnesotan approach to inclusivity and community engagement. Beyond these anchors of our cultural scene, we also have the Minneapolis Institute of Art, which is housing a collection spanning 5,000 years of world history, and it's free to visit. We have unique gems like the Museum of Russian Art, which is the only museum in North America dedicated exclusively to Russian art. And then there's the Children's Theater, which has a fantastic rendition of The Grinch my kids absolutely love. You've got the Science Museum, which is a local favorite for kids' school field trips, but you can definitely bring the whole family for a visit as well. The Ordway Center brings outstanding performing arts to St. Paul, while the Minnesota Orchestra is among the highest rated in the US. For concert venues, we have First Ave in Minneapolis, which was made famous by Prince himself, and Treasure Island Casino is a great spot for an outdoor concert. Minnesota celebrates up-and-coming local artists as well, with places like Northeast Minneapolis or Lower Town St. Paul, which are filled with indie little art galleries and studios. Throughout the year, we celebrate arts with major events like the Minneapolis Fringe Festival, Twin Cities Jazz Festival, and the all-night Northern Spark Arts Festival. The Twin Cities is an incredibly welcoming, warm place for people of all different diverse backgrounds and walks of life. Minnesota celebrates members of the LGBTQ+ community through community events and activism. And did you know the Twin Cities is actually home to the largest Somali community in America, and it's got one of the largest Hmong populations outside of Asia. This is truly a place where people from all cultures can thrive, and this has no doubt helped bring together an outstanding food scene as well. Minneapolis and St. Paul have emerged as a bit of what I would consider an underrated culinary destination. Our restaurant scene features anything from James Beard Award winning establishments to eclectic food halls showcasing global cuisine, and while I'm sure California has a great food scene, here you can actually afford to get outside and enjoy it. And circling back to our previous conversations about how great the outdoor opportunities are in Minnesota, we fuse that perfectly together with our food scene, where you can enjoy countless restaurants and breweries that have outdoor patio seating, lakeside dining, urban rooftop patios, and even heated pop-up igloos for a uniquely Minnesotan dining experience. From gathering at local brew pubs in Northeast Minneapolis to enjoying an outdoor concert at Lake Harriet or meeting up for winter activities around the metro, you're never going to be bored in Minnesota year-round. But I won't lie, moving from California to Minnesota does come with a few adjustments, so let's get started with one of the obvious ones, which is winter. If you're used to mild weather, Minnesotan winters can take some getting used to. Temperatures can be below freezing, and layering up isn't just a suggestion, but it's definitely a necessity. You're gonna need a solid winter coat, gloves, and yes, real winter boots, but while the cold is a big change, it's also part of what makes life here so unique. There's no shortage of ways to make Minnesota winters enjoyable, from ice skating to skiing to cozying up by the fire with a hot drink. Once you embrace it, winter becomes less of a challenge and more of a season to enjoy. One of the main concerns I hear is regarding driving in the snow, and certainly it's a skill that you're gonna wanna work on if you've never done it before, but here's my advice, which I'm sure many are gonna disagree with me on. Your car actually really doesn't matter that much, so don't stress too much if you feel like you need to run out and buy an SUV, but you can't afford to. Whether you end up sliding off a road or not in the winter is gonna be primarily on how you drive and not what you drive. So just take it slow and you'll get the hang of driving on slippery roads in no time. Certainly an all-wheel or four-wheel drive vehicle is better than a two-wheel drive vehicle, but if it's not in the budget, don't stress too much. If you are gonna be buying a new vehicle when you move here, I would try to get something that's got all-wheel drive in it, but also think about getting a vehicle with remote start and heated seats. This may not be something that's common in warmer parts of the country, but they are pretty common around here, so maybe wait to buy the vehicle until you get here, and in my opinion, it's definitely worth paying a little bit more. Second challenge, you might have heard the phrase Minnesota nice, and while it's absolutely true that people here are polite and welcoming, they can also be a little bit reserved at first. If you're coming from a place where people are really social and social circles just form more quickly, it may take a little bit longer to build those deep connections here. If you're worried about relocating to a neighborhood and you're wondering if you're gonna be able to feel welcomed or make new friends and establish a community here, I would say don't be too concerned. There's something for everyone here, and with a little bit of effort, I think you're gonna find your place in no time. In my experience, Minnesotans may just be a little less motivated to get out and meet new people, but if I'm honest, I think it's more that they're lazy than that they don't like you, so don't take it too personal. Minnesota's lifestyles definitely move at a slightly different rhythm than California's. If you're used to the constant energy of big city, the slower, more balanced pace of life might feel like an adjustment, but for most people, that's actually why they're moving here. So if you're looking to trade stress for space, less traffic for more quality time, less concrete jungle for nature and outdoor opportunities, then Minnesota would definitely be a good fit. So if you're considering a move to Minnesota, I've helped dozens of families relocate from all around the globe now, and I would love to help you with your next move as well. So find all my information in the description down below. Make sure to subscribe, of course, and check out some more great content here next.